So why do people crave sex all the time? What is it that they're missing? Many people have been born into relationships with their parents where the attachment bonds were broken. They were never nurtured. They had a difficult time being seen, felt, or heard in the appropriate way. But oftentimes, people are born into families where the attention is not put on the child. The attention is put externally. Maybe mom and dad are interested in their careers more than they are connecting with a child who is so young. Maybe mom and dad are interested in going out and partying or having their own life and leaving the child behind with caregivers that are strangers. When a child has been put in a position like that, then that can leave a deficit inside of a human being of feeling a lack of self-worth. It can make a human feel that they don't know what their value is. They tend to lack the internal ability to validate themselves. Sex becomes a go-to tool for their validation because they'll crave another person to show them their value. There's something inside of them that does not feel that they are acceptable. They don't know how to fix that gap. They don't know how to make that right within themselves. So they go out looking for other people who can make them feel acceptable. This wound that was created in childhood that is trying to have its needs met, but it's having its needs met externally rather than internally. So the wound can never be satisfied. And in fact, the more that you grow to have the acceptance of others externally, the more that wound gets bigger and bigger, and it needs more and more external validation. So trying to use sex to feel self-acceptance, it actually creates a worse problem over time. And when you're using other people to self-validate, what happens over time is you lose respect for yourself. You lose the ability to really look at yourself in the mirror and know yourself and want to be with that person because you're using yourself as an object and you're allowing other people to use you as an object. Therefore, the more that you do it, the less you feel good about yourself, the less that you feel good about anybody in the world. And so it can create this emotional, mental, spiritual hole inside of a person. Whenever they have anxiety, depression, or stress, or loneliness, or if they feel unseen, or if they feel a sense of rejection, the thing that makes them immediately forget about that is to go straight to sex. And so sex can oftentimes become a coping tool. Some people learn to crave sex all the time because they have had sexual trauma in their lives. They have had people who have touched them or hurt them in some way that has caused them a pain and a suffering and a wounding. There has been a boundary that's been crossed that has stolen their innocence. That child's inner body will know something really bad is happening to me or has happened to me, and they will internalize that as shame. Sexual trauma is something we can carry with us for a lifetime, and it can confuse the body because biologically you can have a different response than your emotional and mental response. Unfortunately, sometimes the perpetrator that is hurting us sexually can confuse our minds, and so it can be very confusing to the child as to what is actually happening because you have different parts of yourself, some that are red flagging and some that are being mentally manipulated to say this is actually okay. And so you end up not knowing what to believe. And when that happens to a person, they can become very confused as adults or as teenagers or even as adolescents as to what is appropriate for themselves and for others. And they can sometimes hurt other people in the same way because of that confusion and that rage and that pain and that wound that has been created. Many people who crave sex all the time become addicted to power because they don't really feel powerful inside of themselves unless they're able to manipulate a situation or a circumstance or a person to get what they want from them. And so if you have an aversion to power, if you don't really know that you are a powerful human being, you may actually use your sexuality as a way for you to know yourself as a powerful human being. And using your sexuality to manipulate someone or to get power from someone is a very self-centered action. It will take away love and it will replace it with lust. For those who understand the difference, you'll realize it's a huge robbery. because love brings you joy and inner peace and bliss and some of the most amazing feelings that you can have. But lust will steal that from you. Lust is an experience that is selfish, that wants all for yourself and doesn't care what it will take from other people. It doesn't care at all about other people. So once you've attuned yourself to lust, then you're a very destructive entity and you're destroying yourself at the same time. Sex addicts seek excitement and thrill because to them, life is mundane without the hunt. They look to go out there and see what kind of person they can objectify and conquer. Because life for them feels repetitive when they don't know how to nurture their emotional self and they're not in touch with their emotional development. And that's why people who do crave sex all the time become thrilled with the hunt of sourcing a new person to have sex with. That's why there are some people who will have multiple partners. They'll never stay with the same partner because that hunt helps them to get a thrill-seeking experience so that they can always feel something better than how they feel in their typical mode. When you're not in touch with yourself emotionally, you have no idea that you have everything inside of you that can make your life feel more joyous, more loving. It can bring you all of these wonderful feelings from inside of yourself. But when you feel nothing inside of yourself, when you feel deadness, or when there's something in you that's maybe traumatic that you don't even want to tune into that feeling, then you're going to constantly be on the running pattern, looking for the next thrill, the next object to chase, the next conqueror. And that's because there's something that you're running from inside of yourself. Maybe it's an experience of trauma. Maybe it's all of the bad things you've done to other people. But sadly, you can't run from your past. You can't run from your trauma. You take it everywhere you go and you magnify it as long as you use it against others and yourself. And many people become addicted to the secrets. There's a part of their ego that feels like they have it all to themselves. They'll hold down the job and they'll do what everyone in society expects is right. But off on the side, they may go do some really scandalous, taboo things. And that's the part that they keep to themselves, that they think, well, if I have this little piece of me, then this is mine and I can do whatever I want in this world and no one will know about it. But it's simply not true. It's a lie that they tell themselves over and over again. And they rob themselves of an integrated life, which has the ability to really flourish much, much better than a secret life. They also rob themselves of the ability to have authenticity. Because when you have authenticity, you have the ability to really grow and have a much more expanded experience that is far more fulfilling than a secret life that's shady and filled with a lot of shame. People who crave sex all the time, they have a difficult time being accountable. They fear looking at the truth because they don't want to change and they're afraid to mature. They're stuck in an adolescent way of understanding themselves, and therefore maturity to them makes them feel limited. They fear that if they're accountable to themselves and they worked on their growth process, they would lose a part of themselves that is childish and adolescent, and they've come to seek thrills with and have a secret life with. One of the things that happens with people who crave sex all the time is they lack impulse control over their physical body and over their mind. If they see a certain trigger, maybe it's a beautiful woman or a hot-looking man walking by, that part of their body will wake up, that part of their mind will wake up, and it will just torment them to chase this person down to want to have sex. What's really happening is that they have programmed themselves neurobiologically to try to get a need met in a way that doesn't actually meet the need. And so they'll become compulsive about it. And in their mind, they're thinking, I have to have sex, I have to have sex, I want this person, I want this person, I want this person. And it becomes obsession. And if that person were to say, yes, let's have sex, and then they did, this still wouldn't meet the need, because for the moment they would be satiated, but after that moment had passed, that emptiness that they feel inside would reemerge. And so the compulsion that they have to meet these needs, never to actually meet the needs that are really speaking from within. The lack of attachment, the lack of intimacy, the feeling of invalidation, the trauma that they've experienced that needs to be healed, the self-rejection, the shame that they've built up over time, the lack of feeling that they know how to nurture themselves in a holistic and healthy way. If you're experiencing these experiences that I have described, it's really important that you understand that your experience in life can be greatly improved if you invest in meeting those needs for yourself. If you say, where is this need really coming from? It's not actually sex that I crave. What is it? What's behind that? Is it intimacy? Is it affection? Is it being held? Is it being understood? Is it anxiety, frustration, rejection, fear? What is the emotion that is coming from this urge? If you're with that for long enough, you'll begin to understand that it's not coming from a sexual place at all. It's coming from a different place. And once you give that place attention, you can be healed and whole and have a completely, entirely new experience again.